Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here this evening to learn more about the candidates running for Fargo City Commission. My name is Cale Dunwoody, and I serve as the Vice President of Public Policy at the Fargo-Moorhead West Fargo Chamber of Commerce. On behalf of the Chamber and the Building Industry Association, we're glad to welcome you to this important community conversation. Tonight's debate is part of the Chamber's Center for Civic Engagement and its ongoing work to ensure voters feel informed, prepared, and confident when participating in local elections. Our goal isn't just to share information tonight, it's to help attendees and those viewing online walk away ready to engage. Whether that means asking questions, talking with neighbors, or showing up to vote, your participation is what ultimately shapes the future of our community. This election matters. The decisions made by the Fargo City Commission will directly influence how Fargo grows, how it invests in infrastructure and public services, and how it supports residents and businesses in the years ahead. The leadership chosen today will help define the community we live in tomorrow. My role this evening is to guide the conversation and ensure it remains fair, balanced, and focused on the issues that matter most to this community. Here's how tonight will work. Each candidate will be given up to 2 minutes for opening remarks, and then from there we will move into a moderated discussion focused on issues relating to Fargo and the broader community, where each candidate will be given 1 minute to respond. And then following that segment, we will have a rapid response where we're asking candidates to respond in a short phrase or 1 or 2 words, things like that. Please note that the candidates were not permitted to bring pre-written notes this evening, and they were not provided the questions, but they're able to take notes during the discussion. Thank you all again for being here, whether you're in person, watching online live, or watching the recording, for helping create a respectful space for tonight's conversation. As we begin, I encourage those listening to also check out chamberquestions.com to submit questions during the discussion, and I will interweave those throughout this evening's debate. We will now move into opening remarks for each candidate. This is a chance to briefly introduce yourself, share your priorities, and explain why you're seeking the City Commission seats. And to start off, we will start from left to right with Aaron Hill. Aaron?
Thank you, Cale, and thank you to the Chamber for hosting us here this evening. My name is Aaron Hill. I was born in Minot, North Dakota, later moved to Fargo. I graduated from Shanley High School and then went on to St. John's University outside of St. Cloud, Minnesota. I graduated with a degree in political science, thought I was going to go to law school. Moved back to Fargo, worked for an attorney, decided that was not the route that I was going to take. Ended up coming back to Fargo working at United Way. I got very involved in the Chamber's Young Professionals Network, so maybe a little plug for all those Chamber members or those young professionals. Get involved. It matters. It makes a difference. Then one of my friends from high school moved back from Portland, Oregon with a business plan to start a brewery. I had bartended after college and sort of felt like that was a fun idea. So we formed Fargo Brewing Company with 2 other partners, 2 brothers. And at the age of 30, my oldest child was born. I quit my day job and I went full-time at the brewery as I was finishing graduate school at the University of Mary, studying strategic leadership. I worked full-time in the brewery for almost 10 years. About 3.5 years ago, I ended up getting my real estate license, and I now hang my license with Goldmark Commercial Real Estate. As most of you probably know, we shut down Fargo Brewing Company a couple of years ago, had a good run. I got elected to the Fargo Park Board 4 years ago. I also serve on the board for the YMCA of the Northern Sky. I'm on the Xcel Energy Advisory Board. I'm helping Great Plains Food Bank with their capital campaign. I volunteer with the Fargo Theater, have for the last 7 or 8 years. So I'm kind of a serial servant. Kind of have a difficult time saying no when people are asking for help. So I am now seeking the office of City Commissioner. The Park District, I think there were some bumps in the first couple of years of my time there, and I think everything's in great shape. And so now I look at the city as the next sort of place where I can hopefully come in and affect some change. Thank you.
Thank you. Anna Johnson.
Hi, thanks, guys. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with the Chamber, as always. 3rd time's the charm, you guys. This is my 3rd time up here, so let's go. Amanda Johnson, and I am a local artist. I've been living here in Fargo for almost 20 years now, which I can't believe. I came to go to NDSU and I never left, which I know a lot of people do. And I love it here, and I love this community. And like a lot of you, watched the news and started paying attention to what's going on in our community, and I wanted to get involved. And so I started by joining some of the commissions. I was on the Native American Commission, and also the vice chair of the Arts and Culture Commission actively right now. So I saved that along with Monica Brown Eckert from Theater B, where we find that the importance for these kind of commissions are very relevant in our community because everybody's voice needs to be heard and representation really matters. Recently, as most of you know, I'm a truck driver by trade, but recently I stepped away from that job to buy into myself as a business owner, and I'm opening my own studio downtown by Nicole's, and hope to go into more of my own mural work and business for myself. And that's what makes me an every man kind of person. I am just like you guys. I am not a campaigning person. I don't go all over doing this, and I just want to say that I am here for the people, and your voice is what matters most.
Thank you. Chad Peterson.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone, for paying attention to local elections. My name is Chad Peterson, and I have been a local business owner here. I am actually a Longfellow Lion. This is my tag thing. I'm a Longfellow Lion, Ben Franklin Bobcat, Fargo North Spartan, NDSU Bison. Wouldn't be a campaign event if I didn't lead with that. I had an opportunity, like all of us who were born and raised here, had an opportunity to leave. I chose to stay. Fargo was going to be my place. Fargo was going to be my home where I raised my family. If I was so blessed to be blessed with a companion, and worked out pretty well for me so far. I've owned businesses for decades. First business I opened was in junior high school, we had to buy the physical copies of software back when I was young. We didn't come from money, so to get video game addictions taken care of, we wound up opening a business. I say me. That turned into going to school for architecture, wound up owning one of the largest architecture and engineering offices in the region. Now own my own little design office, own a small construction company, have owned multifamily commercial properties, as well as I still own another retail business. So I have got the business acumen. I think if this organization is looking for that, that's the person. I actually graduated from your first joint leadership school. Our little senior project was Shuttle, not a space shuttle. It was entirely different. It looked the same, but it was called Shuttle, so it made it totally different. Public office. I've been in office volunteering for decades on boards, committees, commissions, panels. Prior to that, public service was in my family's blood, so they sort of pushed me in that direction. Elected three-term county commissioner, blessed beyond words to have people voting for me and allowing me to be into leadership. Within those 12 years, I was chair or vice chair of the county commission for 10 of my 12 years. In the history of the county, recent history anyway, that has never happened. You are elected by your peers. So your peers are the ones who elect you as chair. Normally it rotates once every 5 years. I had leadership positions statewide, president of the County Commissioner Association, multiple appointments nationally as well. So politically, I have the acumen to bring to this. So both, I think, political and professional, I would be the right person for this job. Thank you much.
Thank you. Derek.
First, thanks to Chamber of Commerce for hosting this and having us all here. I'm excited to be here. A little bit about me. My name is Derek Arneson. I'm a lifelong Fargo resident, grew up in the Longfellow neighborhood and now live in Hawthorne. I have a little bit different background than a lot of people that are running here. I have an IT background. I've been an IT professional for about 26 years. I've done just about everything you can think of in IT, everything from support to being in a company leadership role, setting strategic goals, and setting budgets. Everything nowadays, things change so quickly, but in IT, it's even faster. So one of the key things about IT is you're constantly learning. We know that the answer I'm going to give you today for the solution for a problem is not going to be the same tomorrow. You have to be flexible. You have to know that you've got to keep moving and changing. Also with IT, I like to think most people in IT start out in support, and I think that's really important because doing that support, you're learning troubleshooting skills, you're learning how to identify unexpected problems and solve them. And if you're really good at the support, one of the things that's really going to happen is that you're going to start recognizing how to deal with different personality types. And a big key about that too is in a support role, you're dealing with those different personalities when they're having a problem. They're upset, they're having a bad day, something's not working. So you have to learn how to neutralize the situation and show them that you're there to help them and solve their problem. So I want to bring some of that to the commission. I think we need to come into the city commission without a major agenda. If you come into an agenda, you're going to set some roadblocks. You're going to stop the communication between the different people in the commission. We really need to work together, stop bickering, and just do what's best for the city and the citizens of Fargo. And I hope I can do that. So thank you.
Thank you. Jeremy.
Just want to say thank you to the Chamber for putting this on, and thanks to everybody that showed up in the room and anyone currently watching online. So my name is Jeremy Schaefer. Some of you may know me as the guy that ran the window tint petition over the last year. And as of recent, if you've been downtown on the evenings, I do run free karaoke for people there. I am currently oldest of 7 siblings, and I'm from Bismarck originally, lived in Fargo since 2006. I'm an Army kid. My dad did 17 years in there, decided not to run for myself. Really, why am I running? I'm 29 years old. I got a lot of energy, and there's a lot of things that people have brought up to me while I ran my petition. I got over 10,000 signatures on my own throughout the state. And I kind of thought, well, if people are willing to just come walk up to me and talk to me about other things that they have going on that aren't strictly related to my petition, because I had signage on it, I was like, well, I think if I'm willing to do this and be out here and do something maybe controversial because it's window tint, I think anything that someone else would bring up, I would totally have the energy and the willpower to go ahead and bring that up to running for city commission. So what I want to bring to the table, citizen engagement. So if anyone's been to the city meetings, it's not the greatest amount of attendance. I have this vision that I would see that this room be completely packed out to where, both the people on the commission and the people in the crowd would be very excited to, have people being engaged and, have conversations with them. 2, to be able to have entrepreneurial freedom. So that includes current businesses and any brand new small businesses coming up for the commission to be in support of them and, help them get any boost that they can if they need, whether they got questions or where to turn to. We want to be able to go ahead and do that. And lastly, to bring down on property taxes, because no one loves to pay it, but we kind of have to. But the city does have their amount that they can help contribute to it, and to get rid of special assessments, because no one likes to have that on their house as well too. So thank you.
Thank you. Scott.
Yeah, thank you for having me at this event. I appreciate it, and all the people that are attending in person, online. Scott Brecky, proud to say I'm a 3rd generation of my family that's lived in Fargo. Youngest of 5, I too as well grew up in North Fargo, not Longfellow, the Roosevelt neighborhood, the good one. So, personally, been with my wife for 27 years. I have a 22-year-old daughter that recently graduated from NDSU and a junior daughter in high school right now. Business-wise, after I graduated, I got a position at Sam's Club, worked there for 22 years, started off as an entry-level position, worked my way up through to become the general manager, and worked also with Lowe's. So I have 26 years of big box retail experience where I maintained budgets of anywhere from $70 to $100 million with anywhere from 250 to 300 employees that directly reported to me. In both of those companies, I really valued the fact that they believed in contributing to the community. I believe in servant leadership. I've been on the volunteer liquor board for the last 3 years. Before the liquor board, I oversaw a project on my days off at Lowe's at the Boys and Girls Club in 2019. Also donated my time to Habitat for Humanity and other different organizations. I believe that my background is at the right time right now with my current position in countertop sales, stone industry, where I have more of flexibility of personal work-life balance, where I can use my abilities and experience to help with the current needs that the city currently has. I'm very comfortable with dealing with large budgets and figuring out where the best use of our tax money is going to.
Thank you. And before we move on to the moderated Q&A, there were a couple candidates that weren't able to join us this evening, and so we allowed them to submit brief letters to be shared. And so Jacob from the chamber staff will read those letters here now. Jacob?
Thank you. The first is from Nikki Gullickson. Thank you to the Fargo Moorhead West Fargo Chamber of Commerce for hosting this debate and offering Fargo residents an opportunity to hear from the candidates running to be your next 2 city commissioners. I apologize for not being with you this evening. I am out of state, upholding a commitment I made late last year to my daughter. I wanted to share my views on a few important topics as we draw closer to this election on June 9th. As a candidate for one of those open commission seats, my main area of focus are downtown revitalization, community engagement, and fiscal responsibility. For downtown revitalization, I'm committed to working with the Downtown Business Association, community safety partners, and other supporting organizations to increase the positive energy of our downtown, improve the sense of safety, and encourage more new businesses to open. With regard to the community engagement, I plan to increase transparency through town halls and open forums on a regular basis, along with consistent, responsive communication with residents. And finally, for fiscal responsibility, I plan to focus on core city priorities, evaluate spending patterns, and potential changes with supporting strong and sustainable decisions protecting Fargo's financial future. Qualities I will bring to this position are responsible, ethical leadership and transparency residents can trust. Fargo residents deserve clear, open communication about financial decisions made with their tax dollars. I will be accessible and am committed to listening, ensuring your voice is represented at the table. Fargo needs balanced growth that works for everyone, and doing so requires disciplined financial management. I'll prioritize core needs like infrastructure, public safety, and essential services while ensuring taxpayer dollars are used responsibly and with a long-term impact in mind. Thank you, Nikki Gullickson. And the second is from Tony Gehrig. The city of Fargo needs to do 6 things in order to get back on track. Number 1, balance the budget. No more deficit spending. Number 2, pay down debt. We are $1.3 billion in debt and it grows every year. This is unsustainable and will bring down our city. Number 3, end all assessments. Our biggest driver of debt is assessments. They are unnecessary and harmful. Number 4, end all incentives. We can't end assessments if we don't end incentives. We have abused this system and have made owning a home unaffordable for many residents. Number 5, put the needs of Fargo over the wants. Yes, that means no convention center when we are at $1.3 billion in debt. And number 6, define the role of local government. We can't be all things to all people. We can try and we can spend like crazy, and that's why we're here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Jacob, for reading those letters from Nikki and Tony. And thank you again to all the candidates for opening remarks this evening. Before we move into the question and answer portion, I just want to take a moment to remind those that are on the audience or watching it online to turn over to chamberquestions.com. You can scan the QR code up on the screen or type that URL into your web browser, and those will shoot up questions right up here to me, and I'll interweave those into the conversation. Well, let's begin with our first question, and we'll start with Anna Johnson on this one here. What personal, professional, or community experiences have best prepared you to serve as a Fargo City Commissioner, and what makes you stand out as a candidate?
Oh, that's a great question. Like I was saying in my introduction, I've literally done a little bit of everything, like literally. So being on the commissions gave me an insight on how the sausage is made, so to speak. And I think that's what really fired me up to get into this position to begin with. And because I was a truck driver, I got to see infrastructure from the ground up. I helped build the diversion, all of our bridges, lots of our roads, the RDO building. When you get to see things built from the ground up, you really understand what infrastructure means and how it works. And as an artist and a muralist who gets to see the community on the ground level, I get this unique perspective to see what people really are like as they come by and talk to me while I'm making these pieces of art on these businesses. And I think that's invaluable to have this kind of connection with my community.
Thank you. Chad?
Can you repeat the question again, please?
Yes. What personal, professional, or community experiences have best prepared you to serve as a Fargo City Commissioner, and what makes you stand out as a candidate?
Thanks. For me, baseline is decades of business ownership. That's the approach I've taken for my entire life, regardless of whether it's public service or private service. It's treated as my dollars, too. And then in terms of civil service, again, decades of volunteerism. Prior to my election, like I said, I was on boards, committees, commissions, panels, worked with nonprofits. That then evolved into my public service as, again, a three-term county commissioner. The Fargo Board of Adjustment actually works on the agenda that I prepared in my 20s when I was appointed to that board by Mayor Furness. I couldn't believe it. We didn't have an agenda. I showed up as an alternate, eventually took over. So I've been engaged in local politics as a volunteer for decades, and I'm not entirely sure what more I can do, both publicly and privately.
Thank you. Derek?
Well, My IT background, like I said, I'm constantly learning. I'm very flexible. I've also done a lot of project management in the IT world. With the project management background, there's something really kind of special about that. You're working with multiple teams, multiple groups, often areas that have different agendas individually, but we're all going to be pulling together and working for a common goal. I think I can really pull some of that in, be able to focus in on what the actual goals of the city are looking to accomplish, and work together with the broad spectrum of people involved and get that solved.
Thank you. Jeremy?
So my work background, I've done 8.5 years working in manufacturing. Specifically, I was shipping logistics at a steel company. In that same time, too, I was also in outside sales. So one, working in manufacturing, work ethics there, man. I've done 8, 10, 12-hour plus days, so there's nothing too hard to be working on. Second, working with people, doing sales, there's a skill set that has to be done in there, and not both of one, just telling people what to do, but actually having meaningful conversations with them. And maybe there's a compromise, maybe there's not a compromise, but at the end of the day, you have to be able to have that conversation with them with it. Second thing is, like I mentioned, I ran the petition. Not that the petition was everything, but really what it allowed me to do is get out there and even have even more conversations with different types of people that I didn't get to in sales because we're just out in our natural environment, being who we are, and people say certain things when they're not in the workplace that they do just while they're out there. And then second, like I said, I'm young. I got a lot of energy to bring to the table on this thing, and I think it'll be really great. Thank you.
Thank you. Scott?
Yeah, I think as far as civil and being ready for being a servant to the community, the first thing that comes to mind is 97 during the flood. Again, having the benefit of working for companies that when things are having a national tragedy or something that is devastating to a city, you cannot have a better friend than companies like Walmart or Lowe's. During the 97 flood, pretty much my whole 40 hours a week was sandbagging. Just right around the corner here, I remember the day that we lost the battle here on the north and south terrace over by Oak Grove, where we had several of our employees as well that lost their homes. I've been part of all the sandbag centrals except for one when I lived here, and that's been the benefit of having community involvement with your employer and with the community to, thank you.
Thank you. Aaron?
Two things, Fargo Brewing Company and Fargo Park Board. So starting a business when I was 27 years old with 3 equal partners, as most of you entrepreneurs and business owners probably know, we didn't always agree. We didn't always get along. There was a lot of discussion, debate, and when you do that as young as I did, you don't have anybody else to point a finger at, or if there's a problem, you don't get to look around and go, someone's got to take care of that. Yeah, that someone is me. I've got to go do that. I've got to go slay the dragons myself. That prepared me a ton for public service. And then I got elected to the park board 4 years ago. So I took that experience, and I have served as a commissioner with 5 of us. And same type of thing, equal vote. You have to find a way to build relationships, to have discussions. When I was the president, we completed the second phase of the sports center. We completed the Island Park Pool project. We created a new governance model that didn't exist before, and we launched a park system master plan. Did a ton of things. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to our next question here. We'll start with Chad on this one. How do you work with people you deeply disagree with?
That's an easy question. The reality is you have to understand there's a mission to be accomplished. I wish everybody agreed all the time, whether it was in my business practice or whether it was in my public service life cycle. But the reality is the team needs to understand there's an end goal. And compromise is the way to do something. So let me give an example. Social services. Obamacare was placed into effect. We had a social services department head that requested 16 new staff people to manage that system. Myself and Daryl Vanyo said we don't think we need additional people because it's the same, generally speaking, the same people that be coming through our doors. We had 2 commissioners, or 1 commissioner that agreed to the 16, and then 2 commissioners that agreed to the 10 to 12. The compromise in the end was 2, with the intent of possibly hiring some in the future if need be. So again, we didn't have agreement, didn't have consensus, and obviously 100,000 plus or minus per position, that's financially, fiscally detrimental to the community, but we figured out a middle ground leaning towards end and figured out resolution that way, end goal.
Derek?
Well, first, if you're working with a bunch of different people, You're not going to like all the people. You're always going to have some disagreement. You don't have to like someone to work with them, first off. If you have a disagreement, just like Chad was saying, you do have to come to a sort of a compromise. That's how it works. You have different perspectives from different sides. There's always, multiple answers to the same solution. You can get to the same point by going different directions. And so as you learn how to work together like that, and you just sort of, find that common ground somehow, and you get to that common goal.
Jeremy.
So both within the workplace and, again, while I ran the petition as well, it's going to come down to really the way I see it is having the conversation with the person, not just, hey, I say this and you say this, but to allow them to fully say their full thought of what they have on their mind, and then to ask clarifying questions after that too, to fully understand where they're coming from. Because at the end of the day, as long as they feel that they got their full opinion out and got to say what they say towards a matter, and you got to say the same thing, and then, like we've all said, you can come to a compromise at the end of the day with it, I mean, there's really nothing you can't get done. Thank you.
Scott.
It doesn't matter on necessarily on the different viewpoints on some extent, depending on what the task is. Majority of the time, the task is what it is. And how you get to the result, there can be difference of opinion, but that's where you have to create an environment where you have open dialogue and you can either learn to work together or have that give and take where you need to be able to complete the task. Again, the task doesn't change. How you get there can, and then you either evaluate that on the back end. Had a lot of that experience with retail, especially with the number of different departments and number of total employees, where a lot of times you had difference of opinions on hours, on different opinions on workload, on different opinions. So it's important to listen to that and get different feedback. But again, the task doesn't change, and that's where you have the representatives here that are speaking for the taxpayers that can vote on what they believe needs to happen.
Aaron?
Thank you. There's a book called Crucial Conversations. I'm not sponsored by it. I don't get any money if you go and buy it. But for those business leaders out there, this is the #1 book I recommend, and it's how to have difficult conversations. You lead with the heart. You focus on the end goal. You realize what is your body telling you when you're starting to get upset. For me, I can feel like my pulse in my neck, and I go, okay, now I got to calm myself down. Let's kind of start over. Use I feel, I think statements, not declarative statements. And ultimately, we have more in common than we don't have in common, and we can respectfully disagree. And what I've learned on the park board as well is item number 7, one of the candidates and I might strongly disagree, respectfully. We vote. We go on opposite sides of the vote. And then item 8 rolls around, and we 100% agree. And at the end of it, we leave it out there. When we're done, we can shake hands, say, how was your wife? How are your kids? How was your weekend? We treat each other with respect and dignity. Thank you.
Anna?
So as a lifelong North Dakotan, I feel like this is what we strive for, right? It is to be kind to our neighbors and to get along. And so I don't feel like it's even a question to be asked, because that's all we do is try to get along with our neighbors. That's all I know I try to do. So I feel like that's just the bottom line of it, really, is like showing each other what it means to be a good neighbor, to be a good community member, and to show each other respect. Respect goes so far in these conversations that we're having, and that's why we're running in a nonpartisan race.
Thank you. We'll move on to the next question, talking a little bit more, or next set of questions, talking a little bit more about vision and priorities. And we'll start with Derek on this one. What are your top 3 priorities over the next 4 years if elected?
Well, probably one of the top ones is I really want to see us, coming together and looking at the budget and our plans for long-term growth in Fargo. We have the diversion going into place. It's been said that, we have about 40 years of growth before we get the diversion end. So we really want to be planning how we're going to deal with city finances when that growth starts to slow. When it actually, maybe if it stops, how are we going to stay financially solvent at that point? I think that's something really important to do. I also think we need to look at a lot about figuring out how we can work more on the backfill or infill of the older neighborhoods. Can we turn that into more affordable housing for the residents here that might be priced out of things right now? Example is when I sold my last house, it was my starter home. I bought it for under $100,000. I sold it for nearly, I think it was about $250. I was out of the price range for a starting home. and we need to find a way to fix that.
Jeremy?
So I said in the beginning, my three things are citizen engagement, entrepreneurial freedom, and lowering of property taxes and ending of special assessments. So with this more citizen engagement, same thing as we're all doing on the campaign trail, we're going out actively talking with people. You should continue doing that after the campaigning's done. Another idea I have, instead of the city meeting being at 5, have it be at 6. There's still a lot of people working between 5 and 5:30. They'd love to show up, but they can't because they're still working. Entrepreneur freedom, as I said, have the city be a resource for, starting brand new businesses, so that way they can actually feel like, hey, we have someone in our back pocket that we can go talk to. And then the lowering of the property taxes. It's going to help with, with what Derek was just talking about, having a brand new starter home. If you have brand new infill inside of the city that's already there, you don't have to make new infrastructure. If there's already infrastructure that's there, maybe repair it a little bit, but you don't have to spend money to make a whole brand new thing, so then that way you can keep the housing price down. Thank you.
Scott?
First thing for me would be to end the needle exchange program. I think this program is not working. It's proved not to be working. It's proved to attract more drug users. It's been proven that it is creating an issue in our surrounding community. I believe in a very strong police force and having a police that are relevant in the area. And I also believe in a line-by-line review of our current budget. I think some of the areas where we are looking at our budget, we can see things where overall expenses in one department can be grossly inflated. Like some of the others that were in attendance to our meeting last night, the mayor made a comment about the communication department having 3 employees at $400,000, but clearly the budget is $1.8 million with 11 employees. So I'm not sure why there's a difference there, but I think a line-by-line review of the budget is much needed.
Aaron?
So tying into the budget, I think the employee morale is a big part of it. I think from what I hear, the departments are siloed. I think the employees feel sort of scared, threatened, and we're losing employees to other municipalities in this region, and that shouldn't happen, in my opinion. And we've had our issues at the budget and the park board, and I think what has worked well is everybody feeling like they're in the same boat, rowing in the same direction. So if you get the departments to come together and everybody's trying to give and take a little bit, at the end of the day, it's a business, right? There's revenue in, expenses out. So if we can get everybody together to sort of work on the departments, if every department can look at themselves and kind of come with a solution, I think that's going to be helpful. Convention center is a big one. I think the voters approved the lodging tax. I think we've got to do that right, which includes the location. I think we got to be smart and careful in how we operate it and who is the operator. But I think that's such a massive thing, and especially it ties into workforce development, which I don't have enough time to get into. And infill is another one, really smart growth. Thank you.
Anna?
I don't know how he does it. Like, I can't breathe when he goes that fast. I think that the most important thing for me, at least the top 3 things for me, are housing and affordability, right? We need housing that is accessible to everybody, and what does that mean? So we need to get an answer for that. Like many of my other colleagues up here, fiscal responsibility and cutting wasteful spending is huge. It's a huge thing for us, and I think that that's something I'd like to dive into. And like Aaron had mentioned, the city staff is our support. We need to support them, and we need to make sure that we are utilizing them to the best of our abilities. We have an amazing staff here, and we really need to let them shine and bring in whatever they need for support. And I think that's the most important part. It's listening to everybody's voice so that they can be heard.
Chad?
Thank you. Budget transparency, infrastructure, and public safety. Budget transparency. We are spending too much money. And the example I've talked about in the past is I can tell you what the county spends on each and every bullet we buy. I can tell you from a zero baseline of how we do every penny of allocation. We are the only political subdivision that I'm aware of that actually does that. So that's not just picking anybody locally. I'm saying that's statewide, and we go across the river, same thing. We need to get to that level of detail here. Why? Because that will tell us as commissioners and a mayor exactly what the county or exactly what the city does relative to, like I said, the county example too. So it's an education piece, plus we should be able to defend all the pennies going out the doors, especially when those pennies become dollars and millions of dollars. Infrastructure. We have sound infrastructure right now. If we start deviating from that plan, And my phrase here is always, I've never had anyone in my 12 years complain that the road is too smooth or the bridge doesn't shake enough when I drive over it. So we need to continue that. That means the sales tax. That means continuing funding from a general fund, and I could go on for hours.
We'll move on to the next question here, and we'll start with Jeremy on this one. What is one thing the current commission has done well, and what is one thing you would change?
So clarify quick, when you're asking what they've done well, that makes sense. One thing to change, you're talking the commission as a whole, that's what you mean?
Yep.
Okay. I think, well, from watching the city meetings, they allow open dialogue with each other, to within the parameters that they're allowed to in their time frame that they can. It seems that each person is allowed the chance to go ahead and speak, and even if they have disagreements, they still go ahead and show up and still have the conversations with one another. The thing that could maybe be better on the flip side of that is, even though they do have those conversations, some of them, as Aaron has even mentioned too, once you find yourself getting heated in a type of way, to kind of figure how to bring that back in, because you don't want people to come to the city commission meeting just to watch, like, oh, I can't wait to see the drama. That's not why you want to come watch this. We're talking about real politics and stuff that's going on here, man. So to go ahead and, just keep things together. If you have a disagreement, just let it slide. Nothing's that serious to get yourself worked up over it, and come again the next day and keep on trucking.
Scott?
I think what they're currently doing well on is, I believe that every one of the city commissioners and mayor do a good job on recognition of the city employees. I think they always do a good job either highlighting different departments and making efforts in that aspect. As far as things that they can do better, you look at right now, transparency, especially even from last night's meeting, like I talked about, where you have two commissioners that are running on different platforms of a large deficit and budget concerns, and then also looking at outside financial advisors coming in to review our budget. And the mayor made a point last night to basically debunk that. So I think there is definitely some added politics going on in our current area right now. So that's where I think they could do better.
Aaron?
So, let's be honest. When you turn your faucet on, water comes out. When you get in your car and drive, there are roads, there are stoplights. And if you think about the tremendous amount of growth we've had over the last 25 years, it's incredible, right? So this isn't a complete criticism of the way things were done, and the commissioners, there's appreciation for what the past commissioners have done. I think where there's opportunities is just that we aren't a small town anymore. We can't operate like a small town. And I think the liaison system is kind of unique as well, where that's sort of a smaller town concept where each commissioner kind of takes their department and sort of runs it. Where now I think the commissioners need to be at that high level. They need to trust the staff, and they need to have essentially one point of contact within the staff, and respect that. And if someone calls me and has an idea, I did it today on the park board. Someone had a question, and I said, I can't answer that question because I'm only one of 5. But I can help you understand the process of how to do this. Or let me bring it up in this meeting. Thank you.
Anna?
Well, one thing I've noticed about the commission is that no matter how hard the conversation is, they have it because they have no choice. And I think that they do that well. And I think that you can't negate all of the things that have been done successfully within the last couple of years to help our growth in Fargo. One thing that we could do to change this, or that they could do to change this, change what we don't like, is the transparency level. I think that when you don't know what's going on and you can't ask questions, then it becomes suspicion. And if you just don't answer it, then that is like saying it's a bad thing. So, and a good example of this was when the city brought us in and gave us a debriefing, and the police chief said that overall over the year, the whole rate of everything in the city is down 10% and not up. So I think that's worth talking about.
Chad?
The last thing I said when I gavelled out my last meeting at the County Commission House was, I've left you a well-run, fiscally sound courthouse if you can keep it. The low-hanging fruit here is the police chief. Easy to pick on. I've done it myself. I'm guilty. The people in this building and the people around the city and the public buildings have a extremely high give a crap meter. We have good people here. The commission is the baseline of where those people eventually get hired from department heads down. You've got a good team that cares about you, citywide. I've worked with them for literal decades, again, prior to my election. So the team that they've assembled rocks. One thing I would criticize, resource allocation. It's not just about cutting expenses, rate of taxation. It's about where we're allocating resources. Think about where the engagement center is now. If Bruhala is the convention center, we've then thrown away $2 million because they've said that the engagement center is going to close. $2 million gone.
Derek?
Well, like Aaron and Annister said, I think the commission and so on in the past 20-some years has done a really good job of development and growth, especially in the downtown area. I remember in my college era and in mid to late 90s, downtown was nothing like it is now. It was empty. I kind of joke sometimes, it was me and my friends down there, the people that people would now try to avoid, just being college kids and causing problems. But I think what the city commission could probably do better at is overall, I think they can work better with the metro as a whole. A lot of times we see the problems of Fargo and it's Fargo only, but we really have to concentrate on the fact that West Fargo, Moorhead, Horace, all the surrounding communities, we all really are in one giant city, and we really need to make sure that all the different local governments are working together for common goals. And yeah, thanks.
We'll move on to business, climate, and economic development. We'll start with Scott on this one. As Fargo competes for investment and growth in a rapidly changing economy, how should the city approach local incentives to expand its commercial tax base while maintaining fiscal responsibility and stewardship?
So part of the different things where you look at where we're building it, whether it's residential or commercial, we have a couple different opportunities here. One, infilling our area around this community here, North Fargo and a little bit of South Fargo, is probably where you're going to get your best, most economic, where you're going to lower and have more affordable housing, being that those areas are already zoned for multifamily homes compared to growing further south, the Horse City, where you have undeveloped land, where if we have our current system of doing specials, is going to dramatically increase that overall debt if the builder is not accepting that infrastructure. It's going to continue to grow our outstanding debt. So I'm out of time.
Aaron?
I think there's a misconception that the city is handing out bags of money to businesses, and there's this narrative that that's what's happening, and that isn't what is going on. And let's be honest, like, our community is built on commerce. Business is so important to this region, and we've got the universities here, we've got healthcare, we've got a lot of different employers, and we have nobody to work in the jobs. I've been hearing it. The chamber's been talking about it for 4 to 5 years. We have a workforce shortage, right? So we need to do what we can to support the businesses, to get businesses to come here, to educate the students we have, to find opportunities for them. I think it's really, really important. Now, do we need to be maybe a little more intentional or a little more careful on some of the incentives? Absolutely. I think we need to maybe vet some of them a little more. Perhaps it's shorter, 5 years instead of 10, 15 years. But when I asked about return on investment, there really is no investment. There's no cash going in. Thank you.
Anna?
What was the question again?
As Fargo competes for investment and growth in a rapidly changing economy, how should the city approach local incentives to expand its commercial tax base while maintaining fiscal responsibility and stewardship?
Yeah, so when we're talking about incentives, we're talking about all sorts of different things, all sorts of different incentives. It's not just one thing. It's like what Aaron's talking about, what Chad's talking about, what they're all talking about. They're all different things. I want incentives for new home buyers like everybody else so that we can increase our growth in our city. But does Amazon need a huge incentive break to come build when they're probably going to build here anyway? I don't know. I think those questions are worth asking. I think it's a bigger question to say how we manage these incentives and what we're going to do with them going forward. I want our city to grow. I want us to be the best in the Midwest, just like everybody else. How we get there is the question.
Chad.
This is going to sound terrible, but I think we strengthen our relationship with the Chamber and the EDC. Ms. Full, I'm looking at you. I'm not placating you or sucking up to you, but the reality is I think the relationship between the city of Fargo has never been as strong as it was when I was with the county. So I think you strengthen those relationships, and that doesn't mean throwing money at everything. That means simply being involved, being engaged, and participating in the process, I think, more than we have in the past. As far as incentives go, I wish we didn't need to do them. I wish that no one had the ability to do that. But the reality of the world is everyone has the potential to use incentives. Everyone can give credits of some kind or another, be it sale income tax, be it property tax. The point is we need to use them in a far more targeted manner. You could look at my 12-year record, and please do look at my 12-year record, because we took 15-year requests and turned them into 5 repeatedly. We never gave 15-year requests. There are buildings in the city of Fargo that have not paid taxes. I always talk about the Radisson. The Radisson's only paid taxes for 3 years since it was built, and I was a Longfellow Lion. We can do better than that. Thank you much.
Derek?
Like a lot of the others have said, I think we need to do a better job of focusing on what the incentives are for. Fargo right now, like a lot of the Midwest, we have a problem with workforce. We don't have enough workforce here. I think we can focus those incentives more on building up the affordable homes, working with the builders to make sure they can afford to build those homes so people can actually come here and live here. If someone's living here in Fargo, they are more committed to the town, they're more likely to stay, more likely to start a business. I think if we concentrate on the people of Fargo, keeping people here, we'll make sure their businesses grow and we keep having success.
Jeremy?
So I believe what I'm going to term this as a proportional growth plan. So if we're just going to keep running on the topic of having a worker imbalance, you want to make it attractive for people to want to move here. Obviously, people are still moving here, but you want to make it more attractive to the other masses that are there. So, one, we want to have infill, cap on new stuff, and incentives, maybe specifically more for the business ones that actually makes sense for it to give it to them. As Anna said, maybe one like Amazon or a huge business, they might not need it because you already know they're going to have the money because people are going to jump to those jobs immediately. But on the flip side, if people actually want to come live here, the housing has to make sense for them to go ahead and live here at the same time. So if you have a whole lot of brand new construction and new infrastructure, as said before, that's going to add to the price for that new housing. If people are just coming here looking to just make a brand new start, it's going to be hard for them to go ahead and do that. So as we've said before too, if you do the infill of what's already existing, you can make that more affordable, and then we can get more people coming in. Thank you.
That's a great transition to our next question. We'll start with Aaron on this one. A recent MetroCog regional housing study found that our region needs about 16,400 additional units over the next 10 years. What should Fargo's strategy be to expand both the supply and diversity of housing while keeping it attainable for residents?
Great question. I think we need to work with our building partners, with the associations locally, and I think we need to work with the city planning department. So the LDC is under sort of review right now and in process, and I think we need to do a better job of identifying areas that we can redevelop existing infrastructure, existing neighborhoods. I think we need to be able to have the ability to build more sort of 4, 6, 8-plex units, more affordable housing. So what is affordable? I would say probably under $200,000. I think it's extremely important to get people into home ownership. They're building equity for themselves, but they're also way more likely to stay rooted in the community. So I think we just need to continue working with our partners. We need to listen. We need to ask questions. And I think we need to be open-minded on solutions and potentially just different styles of housing, I think is really, really critical. Thank you.
Anna?
Yeah, I think when we talk about housing and 16,400 is a huge number to think about filling in a city where we know we have occupancy. So what's the disconnect there that we're missing? And it's affordability. And yes, there are people who want to buy houses and live in houses, but not everybody wants to buy a house. What about those people? And not everybody can afford $1,500 in rent. That's not affordable housing. I don't care who you are and what you think that means. It's not affordable. Ask anybody on the street. Ask the college kids. Ask the young adults. It's not affordable. And if you ask the 30-year-olds, they can't even buy a house right now. So what are we talking about here? We want to retain these people in our city, and how do we do that? I think it's a bigger conversation, and I really want to talk to my community and hear what they have to say about it, because I think it's such a big conversation to have. And with the infill and not being able to grow out.
Chad?
The answer is market-driven solutions. We all need to be pushing in the same direction. I've worked with developers, again, going back decades, and not just this municipality, but you'll find different municipalities that will push back. They'll give you a message of affordable housing, and then they'll put stumbling blocks in the way. Something as simple as making the energy code to the point where it's ridiculous, right? You're all of a sudden making walls with, R50 insulation and roofs with R75 insulation, triple pane glazing on your windows, and then saying it can't cost more than $150,000. The city needs to agree with what they're saying. You need to make affordable housing attainable. How do you do that? You remove restrictions. I think the easiest answer is partnering with our friends who build the widgets, partnering with the architects, the engineers, the designers that put these developments together, and ask them, what can we do to make your job easier, as opposed to putting stumbling blocks along every path, every day, every week. And accelerating the permitting process would be the most easy answer. It shouldn't take more than 15 minutes to get a building permit in the city of Fargo.
Eric?
Well, like a lot of people have already said, I think we really need to look at sort of redevelopment of some of the older neighborhoods, a lot of that internal in-growth, getting those homes back up to specs. We need a lot more units that are going to be like the 6 to 10 or so size for multifamily buildings. We do need to concentrate on affordable apartments because, like Anna said, when I was walking downtown collecting signatures, I'd run into people all the time saying, I couldn't afford my rent downtown anymore. I've been down here for 10 years and I had to move back home with my parents. We need to make sure we have that rent base at a lower level so people can actually afford it. Those are the things I think is the most important we look at is, again, trying to get that affordable housing and,
Jimmy?
So as stated before, go ahead and rededicate what's already existing that's there. The way I look at it a lot too, you got to think of the business. You got to think of the city as a business before you do any type of brand new expansion. You make sure what you have is already humming and what's good, because before you add on to a new business or any business that you got, you make sure that you're doing well before you take on additional expenses to add on to more. So what I mean by that, when you have brand new housing, again, there's additional cost that's going to go into that, as we've maybe said already too. Chat with those developers when they're building. Ask them if there's an idea that, hey, can we do this instead, or would you rather do that? Because they're still going to want to make money for themselves at the end of the day, because if they're running a business, it just makes sense. But if you're able to have the conversations and communicate with them, I think there could be some really great ideas and solutions that can be brought together, and they might even like it too compared to what they were thinking to do. Thank you.
Scott?
Our current system is flawed, and especially right now with our total debt that we have. We actually have developers out there now that are doing their own infrastructure just so they can use it as a selling point to say, hey, you're not going to get additional specials when you buy our house in our community. So if you look at it right now, I don't think that when you get a property tax, where a property tax, you take the total value of your house, divide it by half, times it by 9, and then take it times how many bills we have at 298. So if you have a $500,000 house, you are paying about $6,700 a year just in property tax. I don't think you should have an increase of your property tax when you're already paying for infrastructure and you have a special of a new sewer drain or a street light that goes up, and now you get a bill for $2,000 to $5,000 on top of your specials, and then your property tax goes up on top of that because of the total value of your house. Our system is flawed that way.
And we'll keep going on this similar topic related to housing, homelessness. Homelessness, and we'll start with Anna on this one. Homelessness and housing instability remains a visible and significant challenge in our region. What is the city's role in addressing this challenge?
Well, I think, as I've said before, I think we can really eradicate homelessness. We've had this conversation within the last couple of years with some consultants that were brought into the city with Housing First. If other states can eradicate their homeless problem and they're our size, what are we doing? If I know and you know all of the homeless people in our city, why haven't we housed them yet? These are questions that we have answers for, and we can make it work for us. We need to find that solution. People think we have a homeless problem, But really, we have an unhoused problem. We need to find places for these people to go, and then the services will follow. You don't give services to somebody who doesn't have a place to live. The police say it every day. They don't want to go answer all of these calls when they need somebody who has for the services instead. If we can get the social services to people and the housing they deserve, we wouldn't have this problem.
Chad?
Solve homelessness in 60 seconds, go. So this is not possible to do this, but the reality is it's through partnerships. I actually sat in this building under Doug Burgum's leadership, director of DHS, Chris Jones, upstairs. I said, what you need to do is reinvent the way we do social services. We are doing social services wrong as a nation, as a state, and as a city. So the reality of what Fargo can do is stay within its lane and create partnerships, because first interactions are probably going to be with the police department. But long story short on this is the state needs to lead, because this is the state's role. The city will never have enough employees, never have enough money. We will never have the ability to solve this, and you can't solve homelessness anyway. But to create an impact, you have to create better partnerships, and now the state is doing that with restructuring Southeast Human Services. You can't answer this in 1 minute, but long story short, it's partnerships. Talk to me after this. I'll talk to you, literally, I can talk to you for 4 to 6 hours on this subject from an informed perspective, because I do have multiplicitudes of answers. Thank you.
Derek?
Well, I think the city needs to develop better partnerships with other places, other nonprofits and so on. We do need to find a way to house the homeless or get them into a stable situation. If you're in a homeless situation, you're in a crisis moment every moment that you're alive, and you're out there not having a place to go. You have no place that's safe, and so because of that, you can't address any of the problems you may have in your life. It also makes it really difficult to go and find that work, because you have to declare a home when you go get a job, typically. So you need to give them a stable sense, and I think a stable place to be. And I think really developing better partnerships with the nonprofits, the state level, all kinds of places we can look. So,
Jeremy?
I see 2 things. One, you might want to cut the engagement center, not get rid of it in an entirety as an idea, but not have the city be the ones running it, because we're throwing money into that doesn't need to be there. 2, as we've already said, many nonprofits, cool. Nothing happens until we have the conversation with them and kind of essentially the city giving them, hey, we want you to do X, Y, Z, because people who care more from the heart will always get more done than just doing it from a paycheck standpoint. Not saying that anyone who works at the engagement center isn't doing a good job, but when people are volunteering for their time because they're not getting anything for it and they're just willfully giving it, they will hands down go out of the way to do more than anyone who's getting paid to go ahead and do something. So, thank you.
Scott?
Yeah, I also attended that event a couple years ago called Housing First. It's a very complicated but also not system. One of the aspects that we could do starting immediately is anyone that is getting assisted living is reduce or eliminate evictions. When you have people that have a substance abuse problem, or even something as, let's say, smoking, and you live in some of these assisted living areas where some of that behavior is prohibited, and you wind up getting evicted, it's very hard when you're on an assisted living program and you get evicted on where you're going to live. And that's something that Housing First addresses. Instead of having someone that's working Monday through Friday, it's too big of a topic for a minute.
Aaron? Very difficult conversation, difficult topic. I know when the Park District, we were working with the city on the camping ordinance. I actually went out and toured the camps, and I toured the engagement center, and I got to interact with some individuals facing homelessness. And I would encourage all of you to go do that, please. Interact with these. These are people. These are individuals. We heard some great stats yesterday. Thank you to the Chamber for hosting an event on homelessness. We've got great partners from United Way and FM Coalition to End Homelessness. And I think the city of 6% is what the city is putting in right now. And I think that's the way it should be. The city needs to play a part, but it is not the driving factor. We need to work with our nonprofit partners. We need relationships with state legislators. Because as a comment made yesterday, it's really difficult to be homeless in a small community. People are coming here because we have the resources. It's a bigger city. There's more available here, so they're coming here. So we have to work with our legislators, and the bulk of them are coming from local. They were born here, or they're regional or statewide. So these are our people. Thank you.
We'll start with Chad on this question. Some of the crime numbers are trending down. That doesn't always match people's perception. How will you address crime throughout the city of Fargo?
I think the relationship with our chief is what's of preeminent importance. The relationship our police department had prior with other political subs was strained at the very least and horrific at the very worst. I think that's your baseline of better cooperation between intergovernmental agencies. A. B, I think what we do is we need to get better data. Example I've always talked about, my dad's house was forcibly broken into. I was told by the dispatch officer, and it's not the dispatch officer's fault, it's their protocol, or was, hopefully, their protocol. Fill out a form. Well, I'm not going to fill out a form. Filling out a form is going to do what exactly? So I think that there may be a trend down because the data collection is flawed. Again, my specific example, a break-in of a house, forcible entry with no police officer responding, is lunacy to me. If someone's willing to kick 2 doors open, my dad may have been there. He happened to not be. But the cops better show up and figure out what went wrong because this person was a professional thief. So it's cooperation and better data gathering.
Derek?
Yeah, I think it does. It comes down to, a lot of better communication from the police department. We did have problems with the previous chief. No way around it. So hopefully we're going to move forward in a better way and have better communication out there. And I agree with Chad. If someone does break into your home, you should have the police force come and be there. You know, it's going to increase that sense of security, even though you just had that huge violation. So police presence is a big thing too. I don't remember who said it, and I think it was one of you guys at some point in another debate or so on. You know, if you're driving along the street, driving downtown or driving down the road, you're going to speed. But if you see a police officer or squad car, you slow down. It's just sort of a natural thing. If you see more presence out there, it's less likely to happen. And so I think we can do a lot more for visibility with the police force.
Jeremy?
So as the brand new, actually, current chief has said in a different interview that he was a part of, perception is actually a thing. And it's not even, just how people see stuff, but it's also how things are communicated to the public. He said in certain police reports, it's worded in such a way where it sounds really bad, but it's a different reality as far as it goes. At the same time, it's been mentioned, or Michelle Turnberg said this too, to actually have the community officers rolling around more so downtown during the middle of the day. I think that's a great idea. It's fantastic. And also too, this one's funny to me because I've been downtown when it's 1 a.m. close to 2 a.m. Once it gets closer to that closing time of the bars, there are groups of officers walking around. They're usually in groups of 2. So to say that there's no presence there isn't true. They are fully there. At the end of the day, though, if whatever we got to do to be better, we might as well have the conversations and go ahead and do it. Thank you.
Scott?
Yeah, so I think the one thing about our police department, you look at over this last year compared to the previous years, we have doubled our traffic tickets. So you could see that there was a plan in place to address traffic violations, and the police department executed that program. They went from about 4,000 tickets to like 8,000 tickets in the last couple of years. The other thing is, you look at something where I've talked about with shoplifting. We went from 700 reports of shoplifting to 1,400 reports of shoplifting. We used to have a 38% arrest record. We're down to an 18%. If you look at when the police chief gave his annual report, we were flat over the last 3 years with drug issues. But then the next report was from our ambulance yearly report where they're up 40% in drug overdose and Narcan. Right now, the police department does not, if someone is passed out completely, they do not do anything about them. We do not write tickets for panhandling. It's not even an option to write a ticket for panhandling. It is completely off. We do not hold people.
Thank you. Aaron?
I did a police ride along about a year ago on a Friday night. It was January, so it was kind of a quiet night. I would highly recommend the public can go do that. You get a bulletproof vest you get to wear, and you get to be with the officers. It's very cool. This is on my website too. I do support our goal of 1.6 officers per 1,000 residents. For those of us who attended the session that the city put on, Chief Stefanowicz, speaking of good decisions made by the current commission, Chief Stefanowicz told us at any given point there might be 20 officers that are sort of off duty because of vacation, family leave, military leave. So it isn't just this set number. There's kind of this fluctuation of officers that are needed. And we also heard from him that there's more infrastructure that's needed on the south end. I believe our friends at Shields are sort of allowing the officers to kind of have a spot where they can kind of hang out and sort of get off the street a little bit. But there's a lot of needs, and it's important, and same with our firefighters as well. I don't have enough time to go into that, but I think we need to support our officers. Thank you.
Anna?
Yeah, I think we all know that the old police chief was problematic, and he didn't do a lot of things that our community needed, and I hope that the new chief will step into a bigger role in protecting our community and being culturally sensitive. And that being said, I think that some of that diversity training and some of the things that went to the wayside need to be brought back for the police, because nobody's perfect in our system, and we know in the United States the perception of the police. And we also know here our police are good people and they work hard, and we need more of them. They need another police station down south. There's a lot of need there. But we also need to figure out, where's that money going to come from? Because everybody's worried about protecting their community, but they don't really understand what that looks like or what that need really is.
Chad? Did you started with this one? I apologize.
That's your turn.
Yeah.
I'll take another minute.
No. Yeah, you wanted another minute. Sorry for that. Derek, we'll start with you on this one. And there's been a lot of folks coming in on online talking about the convention center. And so just want to talk a little bit more about quality of life and placemaking. It's a major factor in attraction of residents, businesses, and visitors. And so talking a little bit about the convention center, but overall, how should arts, recreation, and culture support Fargo's long-term growth and competitiveness?
It's a good question, and it's hard to answer. I think the arts are very important. I think that the arts really drive that sense of community. I mean, I was very, very involved with arts when I was growing up. I started out as an art major. I don't know how I ended in IT after being an art major, but art can really show the culture of the people here. We're Midwestern, but we're also we're Fargoans, or whatever you want to call us. I mean, we have a different perspective than Minot and so on like that. We really like to show where we come from and what we are, and art can do that. Art can really highlight the community and highlight the city. And I think we really need to make sure we partner with arts to do that. It provides that unity that everyone gets, that we all can unite behind, and we all have that same sort of perspective and feeling and know that we came from the same place.
Jeremy?
Can you say it again, please? I wasn't following correctly.
Quality of life and placemaking has become a major factor in the attraction of residents, businesses, and visitors. How should arts, recreation, and culture support Fargo's long-term growth and competitiveness? And also talking about the convention center in that as well.
Okay, that's where I got disconnected from it. So, current convention center, I know the voters voted on it that they wanted it. As I've said before, as long as the proposal can make sense and it's going to make money wherever it's at, fantastic. Let's go ahead and run it. If it's not, there is we'll call it a tax dismissal that's in there by 2028. If it's not taken into a proposal, it gets dropped, so that'll happen. On the flip side, it's funny you asked this. I was just thinking about this when I was downtown. Actually, on Saturday, there's a mosaic tile that's right next to the black building that's right there, and I thought it was cool. It was great. There was a little questioning by why it was funded by the city, because someone went ahead and put it together. But anyway, what I'm getting at is if someone wants to go ahead and add some artistic feature into the city, instead of the city having any form of payment going into it, because I don't think the city should have to pay for any art that gets put in, but if someone feels very strongly as a resident to go ahead and add some artistic feature to the city, go ahead and have the conversation, figure out where you can go ahead and put it, and then go ahead and lay it down. Thank you.
Scott?
Yeah, I think the commission did a great job with the Art and Culture Committee to not necessarily meet at once a month, but meet as a need by basis, so they can decide on different events or any funding that comes in to support the arts in the area. As far as a convention center, sure would be nice to get the Civic Center, which has a budget of $229,000 annually that is not bringing any ROI. It would be nice to figure something out with that location. I don't see anything happening in the very near future. I think that both the two proposals, both Bruhala, I agree that from the location, I think from one, I don't want to get too specific on either those locations, but I think either one of them is going to have a lot of pros and cons, and I don't see it becoming an answer in the very near future.
Aaron?
So probably no secret, we don't have lakes, we don't have mountains, we don't have a lot of sort of other natural features to draw people to our community. Again, we're a center for commerce. We have done extremely well. Visit Fargo Moorhead, formerly the CVB, Park District. We've done extremely well at sports tourism. The convention center is a different part of it. And I want to make Charlie Johnson proud, and Shirley in the back as well. Tourism is a way to get people to engage in our community. They come here, they visit. That's the first step to potentially getting them to move here at some point. We get an opportunity to bring them in, to interact with them, and to go, holy smokes, it's cold and windy up here, but these people are amazing. Why is everybody so nice and so friendly? And look what they're doing. And I think seeing a community that invests in itself, and specifically in arts and culture, and especially I can talk for a long time about Fargo Brewing and concerts and performing arts. So hopefully it's pretty obvious how I feel on that. But I think the convention center is really, really critical, and I'm excited to work on it. Thank you.
Anna?
Well, as most of you know, I've done quite a few murals in town, so I have an idea of what this means to really build community, because every time you put a piece of artwork in anybody's neighborhood, they feel cared for. And that's the bottom line. They feel like they are cared for in that place. And they feel like you are investing in them as a community. As the vice chair of the Arts and Culture Commission, we don't get any money. There's no money in the city to do artwork. That is a fallacy. There's no money. Sorry. But there's no money. We don't get to give out money. As much as I would love to say all my art is funded by the city, it's not. We don't have money. We're not finding money. This is a partnership with businesses to make our city great. The convention center is a done deal. We voted on it. We want it. Let's make it happen. We just got to figure out what that means and where it's going to go. And that, to me, is the bigger conversation.
Now, Chad.
Nice. Convention center has been passed by the voters and should be constructed. As I said in a prior answer, it's allocation of resources. If we choose Bruhala, we have to acknowledge the fact that motion number 1 is build up Bruhala. Motion number 2, I would suggest in the same meeting, is finding a spot for our what's supposed to become a diversion center, not just an engagement center. It's supposed to evolve into something else. So build it. We need it. I'm suspect of some of the locations, but trust the process. I think that's been probably talked to no end. Relationship to art. When I saw this building, the building we're sitting in, we have panels on the outside of it. I think there's 6, or maybe 9. I was shocked to see that those aren't being rotated in terms of art pieces. I was thinking 12th grade, 11th grade, 10th grade, each grade gets a panel from each, call it class, and then we put the art, and it looks fine, but this was an opportunity for the City Hall to, at a zero cost or virtually zero cost, engage every public school kid and have a chance to have their art displayed on City Hall. It's relationships, and building those relationships is how we get art taken care of.
Great, thank you. Now we are going to move into the rapid response section. And this is, again, was a word or a couple words or a phrase in response to the question. And we'll start with Jeremy on this one. Do you support extending the infrastructure sales tax?
No.
Scott?
Yes, but only based off of the added shoppers from outside the community and the deficit that we currently have.
Aaron?
Absolutely, 100%. We have visitors from out of town using our roads, which is great. We need to support our infrastructure. Yes.
Anna?
If that's what the people want.
Chad?
Yes, our visitors are breaking our things and should participate in fixing and breaking our things that they broke.
Derek?
Yes.
Scott, would you ban flavored tobacco in Fargo?
No.
Aaron?
Not sure yet. I've had a couple meetings already looking into it.
Anna?
No, I wouldn't ban it, but it's definitely a conversation to be had because it's such a problem with our kids in the school.
Chad?
This is the vapes question. It's a legal product. It should remain legal.
Derek?
No.
Jeremy?
No.
Aaron, we'll start with you on this one. What is one risk to Fargo that city leaders cannot ignore?
One risk to Fargo, I think it's the growth, the rapid growth.
Our workforce, we're missing it. We need it. Where are they?
Budget concerns.
Balancing growth with financial stability.
Budget growth and involvement.
Drug use and mental health.
Anna, in one word or phrase, what differentiates you from other candidates?
I'm not a career politician. I am just like you.
Proven leadership and back to basics.
I don't have a major agenda. I just want to see the city ran correctly.
I can get it done.
Wait. That was a joke. Come on. Experience.
That threw me off. Relationships and leadership experience.
Chad, what is the city's biggest asset and liability?
Biggest asset's the people, hands down. No questions, ifs, ands, or buts. Biggest liability, I'm going to go back to the potential budget transparency.
I'm going to have to agree with Chad on the people is the biggest asset. Biggest liability, I think, is not supplying the affordable housing that we need.
We're all probably going to say the same thing. It is going to be number one, the people being the asset. Liability is going to come down to getting this budget down right. Otherwise, the state's going to come in and run it.
People and business, and the biggest area of liability is losing that.
In addition to the people, yeah, it's the growth. Growth is our growth and opportunity.
Yeah, it's definitely the people, and I think that the fiscal responsibility and transparency are the biggest key.
Derek, describe your leadership style in 3 words.
Compromise. I like to listen to people. I'll typically 3 words, right? I listen more than I talk.
I am him.
Servant leadership.
Curious, serious, and humor.
I get along.
Competency with experience.
Jeremy, what would be the first thing you would do after being elected to the city commission?
Well, the very first thing we're voting on is the flavor ban, so I'll be voting no. So we're going to keep the flavor.
Get rid of the needle program.
Meet with as many of the staff and staff leadership as I can right away. Step 1.
Really dig into the housing.
Ask our mayor to evolve the political process in budgeting.
Sit back and really figure out how everything's working before I decide I'm going to make a bunch of changes.
For the final rapid response, what is, and we'll start with Scott on this one, what is your greatest strength and what is your greatest weakness?
Experience. I would. People pleaser.
Strength is ability to build relationships, and I would also say, yeah, setting boundaries, saying no to saying no.
What was the question?
What is your greatest strength and what is your greatest weakness?
I think my greatest strength is that I can get along with everybody, and I have a way of getting along with everybody because I'm a personable person, And my biggest weakness is that I get along with everybody.
Greatest strength is I can both communicate and listen. Greatest weakness I have is I try too hard, right? That's the interview. But I think the greatest weakness is obviously, from my perspective, is I say yes. You can ask my wife about this. I say yes far too often to far too many people. But I found that weakness to actually be a strength because it's forced me into some pretty awkward positions in my life that I had to work my way through. So lots of blessings in my mistakes.
I think one of my greatest strengths is over my entire life, I've been able to work with all kinds of people. You talk to anyone that I was friends with in high school, they'll say that I got along with everyone. Probably my greatest weakness. I do have that problem saying no too, but at the same time, I'm often easily distracted by that squirrel.
And Jeremy.
Strength is personable personality, and opportunity for growth is delegation.
Well, we are getting close to the end here, so I want to move over to closing remarks, and we will start with Scott for 1 minute closing remarks.
Well, thank you very much for having this event. I really appreciate this opportunity. I believe in accountability for our budget. I believe in accountability for our commissioners. I believe in accountability and having a very strong police department. I really appreciate this opportunity. I think that these type of situations come at the right time. This is a great opportunity for me in my work-life balance to use my expertise and run for this position. So I appreciate the opportunity, and I ask for your vote on June 9th. And we need to do a great job on growing this community, attracting further growth, and we need to do a better job on retaining, and that has to go through safety. We need a safe Fargo, and we can't afford to lose it.
Jeremy?
Again, thank you to the Chamber for hosting the event, and Kale running the questions, and everybody that came to watch, and everybody that's online, and everyone that will watch it from afterwards. So this wasn't a position that I was asked to run or was coerced into. I wanted to do this at the end of the day, so I'm coming into this full force with the energy of we got to get stuff done. We're going to go ahead and get it done. So that should really put me at the forefront of being someone to go ahead and pick, because this isn't something that was forced to do. I chose to do it. I have a Facebook page. It's Jeremy Schaefer for Fargo City Commissioner. Put a lot of my updates on there if you want to have further conversations from now until the election. Guaranteed times, I will be downtown Friday, Saturday evenings right next to Fort Knox running my free karaoke, but I'm open to having discussions and conversations as I've been doing. Early voting's the 2nd through the 6th. Official voting is on June 9th. I'll take your vote.
Derek?
Well, first, again, thank you for hosting this. I really appreciate the opportunity. I want to really stress that I know there's more than one answer for any problem. The solution today is going to be different tomorrow. I want to come into this being really flexible. I don't want to butt heads. I don't want to come up with my own agenda. I want to make sure we're going to work together. Honestly, I think everyone that you're seeing up here, all 6 of us here for sure, I think would be able to be a good fit and work really well with the city. We would get along. We would work to move forward with the proper needs for the city. So I just really encourage you all to get out on June 9th and vote. Thank you for having me here.
Chad?
Thank you for paying attention to local government. I realize we're not very flashy, but for me, it's a dream. This has been a blessing my 12 years, and obviously decades prior, I did that voluntarily because I knew civil service is important. I have decades of business ownership, both multifamily, commercial properties. I've done a lot. I've managed employees. I've hired employees. I've fired employees. But long story short, I think I'm qualified to do this, not only because of my private sector experience, my public sector experience, and the success I've had on a statewide and national basis as well. But again, finishing with where I started, thank you for paying attention to local government. It's the most important level of government. Again, not as flashy as our friends in D.C., but it is so remarkably important. God bless you all for turning on. Thanks.
Anna?
Yeah, thanks for having me, and thanks everybody for the questions that they posted out online. And like I said before, I've ran 3 times before. I'm super passionate about this. 3rd time's the charm, you guys. And I think that the biggest thing for me is that it's people first for a change. People like you, people like me, people like your neighbor, because that's the voice that matters here. It's not always the business owner or the big wig. It is everybody else's voice that matters in this town. Every single voice. And representation matters, 100%. And you can find me on annaforfargo.com, and I look forward to chatting with any of you. Thank you.
Aaron.
Thanks again to the Chamber for this, but also for the Center for Civic Engagement. I think it's extremely important that we engage our business community and get people who have experience in leadership roles, managing budgets, managing HR, personnel, growth, reductions. I think it's really, really important to get that experience into the civic arena, so thank you. I have met with all of the candidates. I'd like to thank everybody here today, and the two who aren't here, I've met with all of them. I've met with all of the mayoral candidates. Now, I will meet with anyone, anywhere, anytime, whatever side of the political spectrum you're on. And as I said, we need people who have demonstrated leadership experience. I think I have that through not only my business background, but the last 4 years at the Park District. So with that, I will ask for your vote on June 9th, and thank you very much.
Well, let's give a round of applause for the candidates for this evening. Thank you to you all for sharing your perspectives this evening. And I'd also like to thank all of the folks that are attending in person and online for engaging in this important conversation. Conversations like this are an important step, but they're not the final step. What matters most is what comes next. Taking what you learned here this evening and continuing the conversation, and most importantly, making a plan to vote on June 9th. To learn more about these candidates and others running in our community, we encourage you to visit votefmwf.org, a nonpartisan voter resource powered by the Chamber Center for Civic Engagement. Local elections have a direct impact on our daily lives, from how our city grows to how it serves its people and businesses. Your voice plays a critical role in shaping its future. On behalf of the Fargo-Moorhead West Fargo Chamber of Commerce and the Building Industry Association of the Red River Valley, thank you for your time and thank you for your attention this evening and your commitment to being civically engaged. Have a great evening, and don't forget to vote June 9th.